All right, folks, it has been a wild 24 hours to say the least. We got a full update coming in here on what's taking place on the current events. But in this video, I'm going to ask the question, is it fair to compare Ripple to the IMF? And is it fair to also compare XRP to an e-SDR, special drawing rights? That is the currency that the IMF issues. It's a basket made up of the US dollar, the euro, the Chinese renminbi, the British pound, and the Japanese yen. So we're going to expand on that a little bit further into this video, and I want to discuss here what's taking place. Yesterday, I had my Discord weekly call. It was a 2-hour session that I wanted to be off the record for a few reasons. I was sharing some personal moves that I'm kind of making right now, and really the main reason is because we were talking about exactly what just took place over the last 24 hours, about how we've been spot on over the target with our thesis, but some of the things that we've been right about are not fun conversations, are not fun situations to be right about. It's not stuff that you run around saying, we told you so about, right? And I'm talking about the war. I'm talking about the war, and I'm talking about the markets being absolutely delusional and how we called this correction absolutely perfectly. Nobody was taking the threat of war serious. Nobody understood what was going on. And I'm saying nobody, I mean, I'm speaking broadly on the markets. They were pumping things up here once again. And so we had a massive, massive liquidation event that just took place as the markets kind of imploded on the news that Iran was going to be attacking Israel. And this was expected, right? Show me the charts, I'll show you the news. We didn't know exactly how it would play out, but we knew we were due for a correction, and that's what just came in. Let's break it down here, folks. So we get this update here. Huge shout out to Mario Nafal for hosting a long space yesterday with real-time updates of this situation as it was unfolding. And the thing I do like about Mario's spaces is he pulls folks from both sides of the aisle, both sides, both countries, both sides of the conflict. And so although you might hear some stuff that you might not agree with, but that's the open public forum that we need, where the real-time news and data is coming out and we can debate, go over it, and try to verify it, right? The most difficult thing in these moments right now is verifying real information, real videos, real news with the, spawn of AI and all these fake videos and fake news and all this and that going out. It's very difficult to get to the truth. But the full update here on the response, this is what I bring it back to, folks, is the fact that this is stretching the United States so thin. 1.1 billion spent defending Israel tonight. The United States spent over 1 billion on interceptions defending Israel tonight. Israel spent 110 million of its own missiles. The source is RN Intel. Now, it was an overwhelming success for Israel defending with the Iron Dome, and they even broke out some of the new stuff that they got. It's like the exo-atmospheric, basically where they go intercept the missiles in low Earth orbit, or, basically almost space, right? And so the point for me here that I want to share, though, is what this is, I think, is a precursor to a bigger attack, a bigger event. And this was very calculated, very drawn out, and very telegraphed. It was like, hey, we're launching these dummy drones that are going to take 8 to 9 hours to reach the target. And they let the whole world know. And so the only thing that I can think of is that this was done in a way to expose all of the Iron Dome operations along with US and their allies where they stationed at. They also wanted to see the response of Jordan, Qatar, all the surrounding nations, who was going to help, who was going to close off their airspace. And so what Iran was able to do here in this attack, Iran and their friends, I'll just leave it at that, right, was able to calculate and see the response from Israel and the allies to this attack. Hundreds of drones sent, and then we also got additional missiles were fired as well. Thankfully for the people of Israel, very few actually got through. I don't even know if we have any casualties being reported at this time. This is kind of still ongoing, but very, very few got through. So it was a success for defense on Israel and the allies' behalf, but it also was, I believe, a precursor to the next event. And basically they were able to, see how the response played out, how it was calculated, and this is only going to help them ramp up for the next attack. I don't think that this situation is over. I think it's hilarious that Iran basically sent a message to the UN after the initial attack and said, okay, we're done now. Our missions are done. We're concluded. It's like, well, it doesn't really work that way, right? And this is far from over. And this is a serious situation. The markets, I believe, are going to go back to normal on Monday. And, the futures are already opened up here this Sunday. But then when the market opens back up tomorrow, maybe we get a little bit of an issue, right? We could see oil maybe spike off fears that this might continue a little bit further. We might see the stock market dip a little bit. Or the market could do what it's been doing and go back to normal and just rip on the assumption that everything's fine, everything's okay, and that peace has been achieved. Now, I put out a tweet this morning, though, and I said, I believe markets go back to normal until the next bigger attack or event. This is not over. And 2024 is going to shake out most people. The folks that aren't going to make it are the ones that are over leveraged. The ones that were going, 5x, 10x, 100x long Bitcoin at all-time highs. That were trying to flip meme coins during a middle of a war. If you're flipping meme coins during the middle of a war and you get caught with your pants down, no one's going to feel bad for you. And you're not going to make it. Or if you're just on the sidelines completely, those that get too scared go all to cash and don't hold any of these assets, well, you're going to miss that opportunity as well. Gold did its job in sending a warning, as we were highlighting, and so this is now played out. We'll see how the markets open up Monday. It's going to be very interesting. Nonetheless, I don't think that this event is over. I think we go back to normal until the next event. And for us, it's just a matter of not being shaken out. We continue to take advantage of these opportunities. XRP back down to 40-something cents. Thank you very much. And I talked about gold and silver with the pullback over the weekend as well. I think that might be an opportunity. And even if gold and silver kind of sell off on the peace news that comes out on Monday, might be another opportunity to load up here. We'll continue to watch it, but you cannot say that we didn't warn you. You can't say that we didn't call it. We absolutely did call this market move. Notes and chart from my Discord weekly call on March 16th. Markets, and this is directly from my notes that I shared with my Discord group on March 16th. Markets disconnected from reality, 20% pullbacks this last year is standard. I'm expecting at least a 20% pullback, if not more. Refer to chart, already pulled back 10%. 20% pullback from 73K top is about 58,000. So here's the chart. And this is a chart that I shared right on March 16th. We'd already done a 10% correction, about 11%. And I was warning that we could do about a 20% correction. I said we easily go back to 62, but 20% takes us down to that 58 to 60K range. Did that play out? Oh, you bet it played out. You bet it played out. Just look right here on March 20th. Didn't take long. 60,800, 17.65% pullback. And then it rallied and folks thought we were done. I said, no, we're not done. Boom. Literally. Back to 60K. So this one played out exactly as we predicted. And yesterday, I kind of shared my thoughts and the moves that I was making yesterday. And the reason why, like I was saying earlier, the reason why I didn't record yesterday's call, it had to be off the record, is because I was talking about some of my personal moves. And I was also talking about some of these sensitive topics like the war and other topics that I'm not even going to mention here on YouTube. So that's why I kept it off the record, because I always record my Discord weekly calls on YouTube for my community to watch after the fact. Yesterday was one of those, as a heavy conversation that I kept off the record. And then sure enough, right after the weekly call, it starts blowing up and it happened. So let's stay the course. Don't get shaken out. Continue to dollar cost average during these moments, right? It's not a matter of buying the dips. It's a matter of buying the crashes. That's where the real money's made. Everybody talks about DCA, dollar cost average, buy the dip. Well, even better is when you can buy the crash, when you can buy the events like this. This is why I was saying, even on these little pullbacks, I still got my cash, still got dry powder, was for this one, the big ones, the 20% pullback. And we got a lot more coming this year too, so hang in there. Now let's talk XRP, let's talk crypto. This is what's happening on the XRP ledger right now, folks. Tokenization, NFTs, AMMs, liquidity pools, KYC AML, that's decentralized identity, custody, regulatory compliance, DID, and now potentially with lending protocols. That's right, it just got introduced this week. On-chain native lending, XLS 66D. If you squint, Ripple could look increasingly like a bank. Well, they did just acquire Standard Custody and Trust, and a trust company is different from a bank. A trust company doesn't lend out against your deposits, so it's actually more safe than a bank. And I believe that Ripple is going to be, bigger than even maybe a central bank like the Federal Reserve, because we're going to be servicing many other countries. We're not just serving one country. More on that here later. For those that think that Ripple doesn't have a plan here to work with banks, and they are already working with banks, I want you to listen in here. This is James Wallace speaking on Ripple's partnership with central banks right now. And this video came out in 2022, and you can listen to him because he said, in regards to stablecoins, we saw what happened with Terra Luna a few weeks ago, which was back in May of 2022. So this must have been done in May, June of 2022. But even back then, they were already working with the central banks. And now we see this plan come full circle as they've released the blueprint template for anyone who wants to issue a stablecoin on the XRP ledger. Listen in on this.
Stable coins, again, not all created equal. You have a massive range from the algorithmic type stable coins. We all know the Terra story from a few weeks ago. And then now what we're seeing emerging is, stable coins being issued by regulated entities. So I can't give you the names yet, but there's two projects we're working on, one in the UK and one in the US, working with banks that are regulated, who will be issuing stablecoins, and the reserves will likely to be held at a central bank, in a central bank account. So very different from the algorithmic stablecoin.
Somebody tell James Wallace to calm down. Ripple's not working with banks. Ripple's not working with central banks. What are we talking about here, James? Calm down, settle down here. You better run that by the Twitter fact checkers. Folks, this is what we've been talking about. This has been ongoing for years, and he's talking about two projects in the US and the UK working with banks on issuing stablecoins. Reserves to be held at the central bank. Uh-oh. Somebody better run that by the Twitter thought police, the TikTok talking heads. They better go fact check that one. And as we've been talking about here, this stablecoin that they just issued is a massive deal, because it's the blueprint template for any other central bank, any other bank institution that wants to issue a stablecoin. Say you wanted to issue a stablecoin that's backed by gold, right? This is the blueprint template for a plug and play. Just like they said you could launch a CBDC on the XRP ledger in one day because they streamlined the process. Same thing now for stablecoins. It's all come full circle. They're issuing their own stablecoin, which is going to set the standard and provide the blueprint template for everybody else. Now, expanding on that, let's talk about the IMF and Ripple's, comparing the IMF to Ripple and comparing XRP to an e-SDR. I actually explained this in my very first video on TikTok. The very first video that I did on TikTok was back in February of 2021. It was this one right here. I can't play this video because I actually had a soundtrack playing in the background. Okay. This video has over 100,000 views on YouTube, over 150,000 on TikTok. But now I can't play the sound because it has a music in the background, so I don't want to get in trouble. But in my very first video, I said that we needed to compare Ripple to the IMF, or the Central Bank of Central Banks, which is the BIS, because you can settle anything of value. And the IMF is the issuer of the world currency, the SDR, special drawing rights. Now, the SDR is made up, it's a basket of 5 currencies: the US dollar, the euro, the yen, the British pound, and the Chinese renminbi. What is the XRP? Well, XRP is a native token for a ledger that is a basket of the Internet of Value, of all sorts of currencies, all sorts of commodities, all sorts of NFTs, all sorts of things being tokenized on the XRP ledger. That makes up the basket that is all of the value on the XRP ledger. And XRP is the native token to access and use the XRP ledger. So I do think it's a fair comparison to be made here, comparing XRP to some sort of e-SDR. And I think it's fair to compare Ripple to an IMF, which issues this currency to nations around the world. Now, the IMF issues these to central banks around the world, where Ripple is servicing all the way from central banks around the world, all the way to giving out grant programs to little developers that are building a cool little project for retail, right? So it's all the way from the top down. This is a beautiful setup, and we need a solution like this. Could be the solution to literally prevent World War III. I'm not just saying that, guys. I'm not just sensationalizing this. That is a fact. That, all wars are bankers' wars. We know this. And to solve a debt, currency, and liquidity crisis, what do you need? You need a neutral bridge currency. You need a ledger which can handle any form of value, and it can seamlessly move that value on said ledger. That's exactly what we have with the XRP ledger and XRP. I do think it's a fair comparison. I know that you guys are going to call me crazy, right? But, as Ripple's been saying this whole time, they're here to put a dent in the universe. They're here to make XRP as liquid as a G10 currency. They're here to make XRP a world reserve digital currency. You don't just come out and say that stuff, right? And so, for me, it's very clear. Our thesis is playing out. Some of the stuff that's playing out that we've been right about, it's not fun conversations. It's not. I wish I was wrong. I wish everybody could make fun of me for some of this stuff that we've been right about, for the war that's taking place, for the events taking place back home, the inflation still running hot, the silent recession that's taking place. I wish I was wrong about all that, but we're not. We're directly over the target. And together as a community, we're going to ride out this storm. They will not shake us out. We know what we hold. And it's not just XRP that we hold. We know what other assets, gold and silver, cash flowing real estate, land that, we're acquiring and trying to pay off so that we can own it free and clear. And then I guess the last payment that we have is our taxes on it. You never truly own your real estate here in the US, right? But you get the point. We own utility with no counterparty risk, and that utility is going to continue providing for our families for generations to come. That's how we get on the right side of the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. If you appreciate this update, make sure you guys smash this, share it out far and wide, and let me know in the comments down below whether you agree with me on this comparison, Ripple to the IMF, XRP to an e-SDR, or if you think I'm crazy. Let me know in the comments down below. All of my resources can be found at zachrector.com, and I will see you in the next one. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.